this is going to be a little more structured than usual. Just give me just a second as we get going on this. And need to hit a couple more buttons here. And we are going to be live. All right. See here. Okay. All right. So my name is Chris Berry, certified law attorney and certified financial planner with Castle Wealth Group. And today on our webinar, we're going to go over the retirement and savings time bomb. And if you do have questions as we're going through this, feel free to put those questions into the chat. And then also I will stick around if there's any questions not necessarily applying to what we're talking about today. But again, today's gonna be a little bit different. We are going over an Ed Slott presentation on the new retirement savings time bomb. And so with that, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Little disclosure here. And okay, so this is a great book if you've never read it. It's more for, I joke around like my engineering clients because it's pretty thick. It's like 350 pages, written by Ed Slott, who's been on PBS. And really what we're going to talk about tonight is some of the things that Ed Slott talks about. And I think it's important to cover these things, especially as we get into end of year planning and end of year tax planning. So we can talk about the new retirement savings time bomb, how to take financial control, avoid unnecessary taxes, and combat the latest threats to your retirement savings. And this is also a book that you can get. It's on Amazon by Ed Slott. He's a great presenter. I've been part of his elite mastermind group before. And like I said, he's thought of as America's IRA expert. He's on PBS every year. A lot of people who are tax savvy follow what Ed Slott has to say. So it's a funny slide. So what is the most impactful, worst selling book of the century? For more than 100 years, this book has had more impact on the American people than any other book in history. But one, no one will read it. No one will check it out from the library. No one will buy it on Amazon. You can't watch it on Netflix. So what book is it? The US Tax Code, which I had accounting in undergrad, as well as I had an accounting class in law school. Oh my gosh, taxes, like I think the law is boring, taxes are even worse. And this is something I completely agree with. Taxes will be the single biggest factor that separate Americans from their retirement dreams. Right now, what we've been saying on these webinars is that taxes are one of the biggest risks and biggest opportunities right now. And that's something that Ed Slott agrees with, and he's put into his book. So the question is, what is the retirement savings time bomb? Well, Americans' retirement plans are the biggest and most valuable asset they own, often worth more than even their homes. Like a lot of our clients are engineers, they work at GM or Ford, and they've saved up a lot of pre-tax accounts. And then all of a sudden, as they get into retirement, all of their money is pre-tax because there weren't things like Roths, or there were income limits on moving money into Roths. And so all this money is pre-tax. And then what happens when you turn 72? All of a sudden you have to take out required minimum distribution. So what I find is most of your typical investing people, your Fidelities of the world, your Edward Jones, they talk to you about investing, or Morgan Stanley's, they talk about you investing, saving for retirement, how to grow your money. But I think they're missing the elephant in the room, which is dealing with taxes, having a tax strategy, because you can't control the markets. If we've seen anything from this past year, the markets are going to go up and they're going to go down. And whether you're in a conservative portfolio with bonds or an aggressive portfolio with equities, everything in the market is down right now. You can't control the market. But what you can control to a certain extent is taxes and how you pay for the taxes. Because understand that these retirement accounts have a huge unpaid debt facing future tax rates. So most people in retirement, they talk about this idea of trying to be debt-free, like, oh, it feels so good to pay off your mortgage. Well, guess what? If you have an IRA, you have debt. Okay, if you have $1 million IRA, you don't have $1 million because you have a tax debt that is owed to the IRS. And not only is it a tax debt like a mortgage, it's an adjustable rate mortgage based on where taxes are at. And for a variety of reasons, most people think taxes are going up in the future. In fact, they're scheduled to. The Tax Cuts and Jobs Act says that taxes are going up in the future. So 2026. So that's why we have this unique opportunity from now, actually 2018 until 2026, to pay taxes at a lower rate, meaning pull money from those pre-tax accounts. And we'll talk about some strategies. So what is the retirement savings tax bomb? It's just understanding what is the difference between tax deferred and tax free. And the difference is a 3-letter word. It's yet. Tax deferred money has not yet been taxed, but it will be. It is almost always taxed. There's certain exceptions like qualified charitable distributions, but typically your pre-tax IRAs, your pre-tax 401ks, we call that the always tax bucket versus money that's tax-free. That money is 100% yours. And something that Ed Slott says is tax-free is always better. So right when you're finally made it to the retirement, there's this looming uncertainty about how much of your own money you actually get to keep. What good is it making even a 50% return on an investment if taxes will step into claim 70, 80, or even 90% of your next nest egg? That's why it's vital to protect your assets that you've spent a lifetime building from excessive taxation. Because again, these pre-tax accounts, your IRAs, your 401ks, that is an expression of your life's work. If taxes go up 10 to 20%, they're taking away 10 to 20% of your life's work, 10 to 20% of the years you work to accumulate that wealth just because taxes went up. And they're scheduled to go up. Plus, we're $31 trillion in debt. So again, I think taxes are one of the biggest risks and biggest opportunities. And understand that taxes right now are at the lowest they've ever been. If you look at this chart right now in 2022, the highest marginal tax rate is 37%. It's been a little bit lower at 35%, but if you look back to, say, 1981, the highest marginal tax rate was 70%. It's been 91%. It's been 94%. So we're just used to, within the last 20 years or so, this lower tax rate. This isn't to say that it's going to continue, because guess what? Our deficit has grown at astronomical rates. Prior to the pandemic, we were $22 trillion in debt, and the government was passing things like the Secure Act to try to help pay off that debt by saying that your IRAs, when you leave them to the next generation, instead of them being able to stretch out the taxes over the lifetime, they have to pay all the taxes within 10 years. Because they knew that there was about $26 trillion in these pre-tax accounts. So by passing the Secure Act, they thought, hey, we can pay off this $22 trillion debt by going after these $26 trillion pre-tax when individuals and baby boomers pass away. But then the pandemic happened right after that. So we went from $22 trillion to $31 trillion within 2 years. So do you think taxes are going to remain as low as they are now? Most likely not. And in fact, they're scheduled not to be this low. They're scheduled to go back to the 2017 rates, where your 22% tax bracket goes to 25 or 28. Your 12% tax bracket goes to 15. So we know taxes are scheduled to go up, but they could go up much higher given our federal deficit. And again, taxes have not always been this low. So what is the secret? How to have more, keep more, and make it last. How to lower, even eliminate your taxes now in the future. The secret is simple. Have a strategy to pay the taxes now. In Ed Slott, he has this rule, always pay taxes at the lowest rates possible. Well, guess what? Right now, we're at probably the lowest tax rate we're ever going to be, because we know taxes are going up in 2026 thanks to the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, plus we're $31 trillion in debt. So the strategy, the secret, it's not a big secret, move your money from forever taxed to never taxed. So get your plan, not the government's plan. And that's as simple as it can be. Just pay the taxes now. I'm not saying liquidate your whole IRA or 401k all in one fell swoop. I'm talking about just having a tax strategy. And it's counterintuitive, which is why so many people miss out and pay high taxes that could have been avoided. I remember just talking to this even with my parents a number of years ago. And I was going over, hey, like, understand taxes are going up. And granted, you like to see that big kind of pre-tax amount in your IRA account, but understand you don't really have that money. You have a mortgage to the IRS that has to be paid at some point. Whether you pay it during your lifetime or I pay it when I inherit it, that has to be paid. And it's an adjustable rate mortgage. And we know that the government's going to adjust the rates up. So again, the idea, and it's counterintuitive, and this isn't what has been kind of built into our heads. It's always defer, defer, defer paying taxes. But so many retirees are coming in with these big pre-tax accounts, and now they're at the same, if not higher tax bracket than while they're working, especially when you factor in things like Social Security and required minimum distributions they have to take out and pensions, and you lose a lot of the common deductions you have while you're working. A lot of retirees find that they're at the same, maybe the lower end of, say, the 22% tax bracket, but the same tax bracket, if not a higher tax bracket in retirement. So that's what we're trying to do, is we're trying to protect against that. So Ed Slott, he lays out 5 steps in his book, The New Retirement Savings Time Bomb, on how to try to plan around this. So the first thing is to time it smartly. And this is really what I'm talking about, is looking at strategies to pay the tax now, or maybe pay it while this Tax Cuts and Jobs Act still runs. So what Ed Slott says, and this is from the book, by choosing the right time to start taking your money out and the right amount to take, you can escape racking up those huge tax bills plus penalties that stem from withdrawing too little, too early, or too late. Because there's rules on what you can do or how you can withdraw from these pre-tax accounts. And this is really what we've been focusing on really since 2016, even before the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act was passed. Because I remember in 2016, the federal deficit was at a record high, I want to say about $16 trillion. And a lot of people were saying this cannot continue, especially with interest rates potentially going up. The amount of debt the country has is getting a little bit scary. So is the government going to print more money? Well, we can't do that now with inflation where it's at. Are they going to cut spending? Neither side cuts spending. They just spend on different things. Or are they going to have to raise taxes? So as early as 2016, we saw like red flags that taxes were going to have to, this deficit was an issue and taxes would have to be planned for. And so we started developing strategies even before the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act to try to minimize taxes for our clients. So again, timing is everything with these retirement accounts. You need to understand that there's certain rules around them. So, and if you don't follow the rules, you're going to be penalized. So prior to 59 and a half, if you pull money out of these pre-tax accounts, you could be penalized. There's certain exceptions. For example, let's say you're separated from employment and you're older than 55, you can pull money from things like 401ks without penalty. But as a general rule, pulling money out prior to 59 and a half, you're going to pay a penalty. Now, if you were to not take money out after age 72, when there's required minimum distributions, you're also going to pay a penalty. And it's a significant penalty of about 50%. If you pull it out early, you're paying a penalty of 10%. So the sweet spot in terms of this type of planning is really 59 and a half to 72. Now, if you're older than 72, I still think it's important to consider this, not only for the rest of your retirement, but also for what you leave as a legacy. But just understand that you're going to be forced to take money out of those IRAs and 401ks. So you can generally withdraw any amount you wish at any time you wish between the days you turn 59 and a half and 72 without an IRS penalty of any kind. Now, understand you still have to pay the tax, but the nice thing, or why this is a sweet spot, is there's no tax rules to worry about, no early distribution penalties, and no RMDs, meaning you can do maybe bigger Roth conversions. And one thing Ed Slott says, the more you plan, the more you keep. And I totally agree with that. So again, timing is everything. After age 72, guess what? If you don't pull money out, you're going to pay a 50% punishment tax. So if you screw up and you forget to take out RMDs, you're going to pay a 50% penalty on that. Now, the first year, they give you a little bit of leeway where the year after turning 72, you just have to take out before April 1st. And then every year thereafter, you have to take it out by December 31st. Also, the age 72 is important, not only for your planning, but also if you were to inherit an IRA, if the person who passed away was older than 72, then you have to take out required minimum distributions every year for the 10 years that you're allowed to stretch that IRA. If they're younger than 72, you don't have to take out any RMDs, but all the taxes have to be paid within 10 years. And this is from the Secure Act, which we'll talk a little bit more shortly. So first, time it smartly. The sweet spot is between 59 and a half, 72. Next, let's secure it. What do we mean by this? We're talking about the Secure Act. And so don't be fooled by the name Congress gave to their recent rate of your retirement savings. They call the law the Secure Act, but it does not. It does the exact opposite when it comes to the retirement funds you leave to your children and your grandchildren. The reason for this is they killed the stretch IRA. So prior to 2020, one of the estate planning tools we used was what's called a stretch IRA trust or a retirement plan trust. And what we would do is we would leave the IRA to a trust, and the trust would shoot out the required minimum distributions each year for the benefit of the child or the grandchild. And so basically what we're doing is we were stretching out the IRA over the lifetime of the beneficiary. And it was asset protected. It almost became like a pension for the grandchildren or the children. But they passed the Secure Act in 2019, effective January 1st, 2020, that now says that anyone who inherits the IRA, whether an individual or a trust that includes see-through provisions, which our trusts do, they have to pay all the taxes within 10 years. So instead of your children being able to stretch out the taxes over their lifetime, they have to pay all the taxes within 10 years. And again, what the government was doing was saying they're coming after those IRAs because they knew that at the time we were $22 trillion in debt, and there was $26 trillion sitting in people's existing 401ks and IRAs. And they knew that they couldn't come after your IRA because you wouldn't vote the politician in. But if we sneak this language into this 550-page bill, where the beneficiaries now have to pay the taxes at an expedited rate, no one will complain. And not really many people complained in the public. It was more attorneys and CPAs and financial advisors saying, hey, government's kind of screwing us on this. And I understand where they're coming from because we were at the time $22 trillion in debt. So the key, set up a beneficiary plan. Most Americans own investment, bank, brokerage accounts, life insurance, pensions, retirement accounts, and real estate. So how much is typically covered by your will? And this is something we talk about all the time. The answer is none of it. Your will does not control your assets. All the will does is give instructions to the probate court on how to administer your estate. So if you're looking to avoid probate, you don't want to rely on a will-based estate plan because, again, all a will does is gives instructions to your probate court on how to administer your estate. So if you want to control these different accounts, that's where we have beneficiary designations. And typically with beneficiary designations, we would name spouse first for a lot of these things, and then the trust is a contingent beneficiary because the trust can build in some additional benefits for your beneficiaries. And it's important to have a primary beneficiary as well as a contingent beneficiary. So that's where, like I said, typically we're going to have the spouse as the primary beneficiary of your IRA, and then the trust will be the contingent beneficiary of the IRA. And that's where your kids will be the beneficiaries of those different accounts coming from the trust, where now they can receive it so it's asset protected. And it's important to review your beneficiary designations as well as your estate plan really on an annual basis, just because financial institutions screw things up. But then also for a variety of other reasons, major life events like death, birth, marriage, remarriage, divorce, tax law changes. So again, you should not only your IRA beneficiaries, but all of your beneficiaries. Another one is like if your bank gets bought out, like was it TSC just got bought by Huntington, or it might be the opposite. But a lot of times when a bank buys out another bank, all the beneficiary designations drop off those accounts. So third strategy, and this is the biggest one, this is one that most people have heard of, is to Roth it. So contribute or convert your current traditional IRA to a Roth IRA if you're able to. It's the tax deal of the century, according to Ed Slott. And it allows you to stockpile cash in your retirement accounts income tax free for the benefit of yourself, so the rest of your retirement, as well as your beneficiary. So the Roth IRA allows us to build retirement accounts designed to grow and remain free of tax for the rest of your life and what you leave to the next generation. So it's great for planning for your retirement as well as your legacy. There's only one catch: you have to pay the income tax up front. And remember, that's the secret. Taxes almost guaranteed will never be as low as they are right now. So I would rather pay a lower tax now, move things to something that grows tax-free, than to defer paying the tax. So the idea is move your money from forever tax to never tax. And how? Pay the conversion tax today for future growth tax-free. And this is really looking at taxes not through a micro lens of minimizing taxes for one specific year, but through a macro lens of minimizing taxes for the rest of your retirement and what you leave as a legacy. Now, keep in mind, with Roth conversions, there's no income limit. With Roth contributions, there are income limits. With Roth conversions, there's no conversion limit. With Roth contributions, there are conversion or contribution limits. With Roth conversions, there's no age limit. With Roth contributions, there's age limit and requirements of working or a spouse working. Now, the downside are the conversions are permanent and the tax will be owed. You can't undo a Roth conversion. So what are the biggest benefits of the Roth IRA? Eliminates the uncertainty. As we move into retirement, isn't that what we want? We want peace of mind. We want certainty. We want what I call the 3 C's: confidence, comfort, and clarity. We don't have to worry about future taxes. I had a client last year, 2 years ago, had over $3.5 million pre-tax. And what we did is we developed a strategy to get them to the 0% tax bracket for the rest of their lifetime. And this eliminates the required minimum distributions during lifetime. And it eliminates the required minimum distributions for your kids based on the Secure Act. Some of the Roth myths and misconceptions: my money will be tied up. You can take out your original contributions to the Roth at any time, tax and penalty free. A Roth conversion will raise my taxes and make me angry. Well, would you rather be angry 1 year or angry every year for the rest of your life? Think of it as ripping off the Band-Aid. You just do it quick and then it's done. Now, there's a lost opportunity cost by doing a Roth conversion. And that's not the case. Again, it's all about tax rates. And in our workshops, we talk about this idea of like I said, a lot of people assume that, well, I have a lot of pre-tax dollars. It's a bigger amount. If I were to pay the tax now I have less in the Roth. Well, what you aren't factoring in is that at some point the taxes have to be paid no matter what. And if taxes remain the same, whether you do a Roth conversion or not, it doesn't matter. However, the Roth IRA advantage compounds over time if tax rates increase. And they're scheduled to increase. And they might go much higher. So again, all things being equal, if there is not a tax rate hike in the future, whether you do a Roth conversion or not, it really doesn't matter. But we know by law, taxes are scheduled to go up. And in fact, they're probably going to go up much higher in the future. And this is what sometimes people have a hard time wrapping their head around, is this idea of like, oh, I have a bigger balance pre-tax. I'm like, no, you still have a tax debt that has to be paid. And we know that it's basically an adjustable rate mortgage. So it's almost a no-brainer to look at doing this strategy, a tax planning strategy. Now, the fourth option is to insure it. This is a more complicated approach than the Roth conversion, but it's a similar concept. And what we do is we kind of break it into 2 steps. The first step is how much to convert or how much to move out of your pre-tax account. And that's where we just look at your tax bracket, we look at your IRAs, and then we develop the number from there. Then the second piece is, where do we put it? Maybe it's a Roth conversion. Maybe we insure it. Maybe we move it into a Castle asset protection trust. There's different options. But the key is we need to get it out of those pre-tax accounts in a smart way. And that's where we're just looking at the tax brackets. So while IRAs may be moving to the trash heap for estate planning, life insurance gets bumped up to the top of the list of tools creating your perfect estate plan. So life insurance may now be the new stretch IRA. So if you're looking to leave a legacy, looking to leave money to the next generation, the Roth may not be the best option because you have to take the money out of the Roth within 10 years. So now the best option might be a life insurance strategy. Also, a life insurance strategy with cash value might be a great way to build in tax-free wealth, tax-free income in the future. So insure it, planning after the death of the stretch IRA. So who's most at risk? Those with large IRAs, those with most of their assets tied up in retirement accounts. Even if there's no estate tax, your beneficiaries may still face significant income taxes on your retirement accounts because of the pre-tax nature. So your retirement account's best defense is life insurance. It is the single best, most cost-effective yet underutilized strategy to protect retirement accounts from being decimated by taxes. And that's something that Ed Slott says. So this is where we look at permanent cash value life insurance. Typically what we're doing is we're looking at what's called index universal life. Again, there's pros and cons to it. It can be complicated. You need to understand what you're doing when you set these up. But for a lot of our clients, it's one of the best tools to really protect everything they've worked so hard for. We can build in tax-free income. We can build in long-term care benefits, and we can build in tax-free death benefits going to the kids that can be stretched out over their lifetime. So this can replace the benefits of the stretch IRA and the IRA trust that I talked about, can be more tax efficient, can be estate tax-free, more flexibility. You have a lot more options with life insurance than you do retirement accounts. Can provide lifetime benefits. Here's a question coming in. Are you aware any confirm pay taxes early is better for most tax in the long run? So here's a question that comes in. Are you aware of any financial calculations that confirm paying income taxes early, for example, when converting IRAs to Roth, is beneficial for most taxpayers in the long run? Given the time value of money, it is important to be reasonably confident that paying taxes early will produce higher total investment balances in the long term. This is what we do is we show when we sit down with clients and we run the numbers, we can show that, like, depending on the size of your IRA, we've been able to show by paying the taxes early, getting up to say the 24% tax bracket, we've added hundreds of thousands of dollars to portfolios. In certain situations, it's been over $1 million. We've added to the portfolio just by paying the taxes sooner rather than later. So yeah, if you want to see like how the numbers actually play out, give our office a call, or what I'll do right now, let me put it into the chat. If you go to, I'm going to give you a website, just 15chris.com. We can book some time together. That should take you to my calendar, and we can have a short conversation, talk about the steps where we can run the numbers to confirm that paying income taxes early will be beneficial, not only for you, but also what you leave as a legacy. Because again, we know taxes are going up. So yeah, when I sit down and we run the software and you see just what that number is from paying the taxes early, it can be pretty eye-opening. And this is probably one of the biggest value adds that we can add, because again, taxes are one of the biggest risks and biggest opportunities right now. Another question that came in, is this similar to a LIRP? Yeah, so what a LIRP is a life insurance retirement plan. It's just kind of a marketing term for permanent cash value life insurance. Yeah, so Ed Slott's life insurance replacement plan, pay down the IRA over a number of years. And we're working with a lot of clients doing this, saying, okay, each year we're going to pull, say, $200,000 from the pre-tax IRA. Maybe a portion goes to a Roth conversion, a portion of that goes to the cash value life insurance. After-tax funds can be used to purchase the life insurance. We could even use an ILID if we want to make this estate tax-free, reduces current income taxes by eliminating the RMDs on the IRAs, and this can provide tax-free retirement income similar to a Roth. But again, this isn't for everyone. It is complicated. You need to have a certain level of assets for this to make sense. It is a long-term commitment. Typically, when we set up one of these plans, if we're going to pull income from it, we don't want to pull the income for about 10 years. You have to set this up properly. There's a lot of life insurance salesmen out there. We're, as an attorney and a fiduciary and a CFP, like, we're not putting everyone into something like this or suggesting it, but this has to be kind of the right fit for the right type of client. Okay, let me just double check questions. I answered that one. All right, cool. All right, number 5, avoid the death tax trap. So this is Ed. I have a picture of him and I together. He's a hilarious presenter. He's super funny as a CPA. So I've done some informal research on the subject, and 3 out of 3 people will die eventually, whether or not they do any estate planning first. So the time to revise your estate plan is now. Yeah, I would agree with that assessment. So avoid the death tax trap, estate planning after the Secure Act. So again, the Secure Act eliminated the stretch IRA. So check your beneficiary plans, what you have in terms of your estate plan, especially if you named a trust. It might be time to review it if you've done your estate plan prior to 2020. For our clients where we've done the estate plan, everything's still in order just because of the way that we built our trust, but not every estate plan is built the way with the sophistication and the flexibility that our plans were. So if your estate plan is older than 2020, when the Secure Act became effective, it may be time to review your estate plan. And again, tax rates may increase soon. Consider more tax-favored alternatives. Think of a strategy of pulling money from the pre-tax accounts, maybe to move it into a Roth, maybe to move it into life insurance, maybe to move it into an asset protection trust. So again, 5 easy steps. Number 1, time it smartly. Number 2, secure it. Number 3, Roth it. Number 4, insure it. Number 5, avoid the death tax trap. So as we're wrapping up here, the fallout from this new retirement savings tax time bomb will continue to affect you and your children, the economy, and society for years to come. Now is the time to step up to save big money for you and your family. There's no excuses. Take action, get your plan, not the government's plan. Your check engine light is on in your retirement accounts. And again, it's not up for debate. Taxes are scheduled to go up. And if taxes are scheduled to go up, then doesn't it make sense to explore having a tax strategy moving forward? The Green Bay Packers never lost a football game. They just ran out of time. And it's the score at the end of the game that counts. It's not how much you have, but what you keep after taxes. So again, that's the big thing to think about. It's not how much is in your pre-tax account. It's how much of that you get to keep. And if you don't have a tax planning strategy now, you're going to keep less than if you put together a strategy now. And the history of failure of war can be summed up in 2 words: too late. So again, the window is closing on developing this tax strategy based on the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act that runs from 2018 to 2026. And right now with our clients, we're busy having end of year tax planning strategies. So time is running out. Take action, learn from history. Taxes will increase, leaving you with less when you need it the most in retirement. Remember the secret: move your money from accounts that are forever taxed to never taxed. And Ed Slott has these rules: always pay taxes at the lowest rate. Tax-free is always better. And you can complain about taxes, or you can do something about them. The more you plan, the more you keep. I want you to have more, keep more, and make it last. So I just wanted to run through that. Let me know if you have any other questions on that. But if you want to see how this applies to your situation, like someone said, they want to see hey, I want to see the numbers behind this. Go to 15chris.com and we can schedule some time to talk, and we can talk about how we can analyze how this strategy works for you. But if you do have any questions, put them into the chat now. And all right. Here's a question. Not applying to this, but we'll get to it. I've been watching 1 and 2 year treasury rates, 4%. Seems like a safe place to ride some of the storm. Any thoughts on this? Seems right for my dad's assets and maybe mine also. Yeah, interest rates are going up. And that's where we've been talking about I-bonds as a great alternative. There's a lot of limitations on that. I break it into time horizons. If this is money that we think we might need over next year or so, then yeah, that might be a good option. If this is money that we think is going to last a couple of years, I wouldn't want to be locked into that rate, especially a lot of people think with the governmental or not the upcoming elections, but the presidential elections coming up. So a year and change, or I guess 2 years and change, a year and change, less than 2 years. Yeah, 2 years. We think that's when a lot of the rebuild's going to happen. So yeah, if there's an amount of money that we want to just pull, kind of put to the side for a year or so, that may make sense. All right, someone's raising their hands. If you can put your question into the Q&A, that probably would be better, if you wouldn't mind. I'll give you a second to put that in. But the reason I share this is it's super important. We're coming up on the end of the year. Right now, we're having these conversations with our clients that have pre-tax accounts. We're looking at their tax return. We're looking at where they're projected to fall in terms of the tax bills or the tax brackets for the year. And it's a 2-step process. One is, how much should we move? So how much should we move as part of that IRA exit strategy? And the second part is, where do we put it? The easy answer that everyone gravitates to is the Roth IRA, but depending on your situation, there's other options. And that's where you can't just trust Google or going online, because everyone's situation is a little different. Depends on what type of trust you have, what's your goals, what are you trying to accomplish? And that's really our strategy of figuring out what is your goal, what is the best strategy to help you achieve the goal, and then what are the tools to help you achieve that. So, all right. Okay. So it looks like no more questions. Oh, here we go. And I put 10K into IBON, which is a 10K max annual invest with rising interest rate. Did I make a mistake? So the question is, I put 10,000 into IBON, which has a max annual interest rate. Did I make a mistake? Probably. Well, I don't know your specific situation, but for a lot of people, moving money into IBONs that they weren't going to need for, say, a year, rather than just having it sit in cash, for most people, that made a lot of sense. So I wouldn't say that would be a mistake. Okay. All right. So with that, yep. All right. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. We'll talk to you next week. Take care. Bye-bye. And again, if you want to see how this applies, feel free to reply to the email, and we can get us